We faithfully deliver value and interpret great books from around the world. Hi, this is Sally from Book Talk. Today, we're exploring the book, The Genius of Birds. What interesting bird behaviors have you seen? Feel free to leave comments and share your thoughts on birds. Birds are among the most common animals. You can spot various birds wherever people live. But compared to pets like cats and dogs, people often think birds have low intelligence and are foolish. In English, many mocking terms relate to birds, like calling a scatterbrained person a bird brain or describing a failure as laying an egg. Aha! To scientists studying birds, this is a misconception. Humans and birds are very different creatures. We can't judge bird intelligence by human definitions, so scientists prefer cognition over intelligence. Cognition refers to abilities tied to learning, memory, and decision-making, including insight, reasoning, planning, and more. Animals with higher cognitive abilities adapt better to their environments. Facing environmental challenges, they observe, analyze, find solutions through thought, and sometimes show creative behaviors. The genius in the book's title means high-level cognitive abilities. Over the past 2 decades, countless field studies and lab research prove many birds have excellent cognitive skills. For example, magpies have strong self-awareness and recognize themselves in mirrors. There's a bird called the New Caledonian crow. They live on New Caledonia Island in the Pacific. New Caledonian crows not only use tools, but make complex ones, and only 4 species can do this: humans, chimpanzees, orangutans, and New Caledonian crows. The author Jennifer Ackerman is a renowned American science writer, contributing long-term to magazines like Scientific American and National Geographic, with multiple nature writing awards. And she hopes this book will clear up misunderstandings about birds and deepen our appreciation for them. The book has 8 chapters and is about 230,000 characters long. In the book, Ackerman analyzes bird brain features, explains the biological basis of their genius, and showcases their talents from multiple angles. After its 2016 publication, it was named a Wall Street Journal Top 10 Nonfiction Book of 2016 and the Sunday Times Natural History Book of the Year. I'll interpret the main content of the book for you in 2 parts. First, what misconceptions do humans have about bird brains? Second, what talents do birds possess? Let's start with the first part. What misconceptions do humans have about bird brains? The book introduces 2 misconceptions. The first misconception is that birds have small brains, so their cognitive abilities are low. Compared to many mammals, birds' brains are indeed small. But the author points out that body weight varies greatly among different creatures, and brain weight alone doesn't accurately reflect cognitive ability. The human brain weighs about 1.36 kilograms on average, while a sperm whale's brain weighs 7.8 kilograms. But sperm whales aren't as smart as humans. Compared to absolute weight, the brain-to-body weight ratio might be more indicative. If we calculate based on a 64 kilogram body weight, the human brain accounts for a little over 2% of the body weight. Sperm whales weigh around 2 tons, and their brains make up only about 0.4% of their body weight. Wolves and sheep have body weights close to humans, but their brain weights are only about 1/7 of humans. Now, take birds as an example, like the New Caledonian crow that makes tools. Its body weight is about 230 grams, and its brain weighs around 7.5 grams. So the brain makes up about 3% of its body weight, even higher than humans' ratio. From this perspective, it's no surprise that birds possess outstanding talents. Why do birds have such a large brain-to-body weight ratio? This is related to birds' ancestors. Birds descended from theropod dinosaurs, which were bipedal dinosaurs. Velociraptors are theropod dinosaurs. They needed to chase prey quickly in forests, so their brains' visual centers and motor coordination areas gradually enlarged. Lox. In other words, birds' ancestors already had relatively large brains, and to adapt to environmental changes, dinosaurs continued to evolve. Now, over tens of millions of years, theropod dinosaurs underwent significant physiological changes. They gradually developed wings, learned to fly, and their bodies shrank from hundreds of kilograms to less than a kilogram, eventually becoming the birds we know. Compared to the substantial reduction in body size, birds' brains didn't shrink much because of a phenomenon called neoteny in their evolution. Neoteny means that an organism retains baby-like head and facial features into adulthood. In many animals, as they grow, the skull shape changes and the snout and face enlarge, naturally leaving less space for the brain. Crocodiles are like this. From youth to adulthood, their brains show minimal growth. But in birds, during growth, the skull maintains its juvenile shape with smaller snouts, leaving ample space for brain development. Humans also exhibit neoteny. It's this trait that allows both humans and birds to develop relatively large brains for their body size. However, not all birds have high brain-to-body ratios. Great spotted woodpeckers and quails have similar weights, but the woodpecker's brain is 2.7 grams while the quail's is only 0.73 grams, with correspondingly lower cognition. Canadian biologist Louis Lefebvre documented innovative behaviors like clever foraging or learning new skills in over 800 bird species. Lefebvre believes innovation frequency reflects avian cognitive ability. Great spotted woodpeckers show 9 innovations, quails only 1. So at similar weights, birds with larger brains are smarter. Brain differences among birds relate to their juvenile period length. In nature, most intelligent animals have extended juvenile phases. Humans, for instance, have long childhoods for parental learning, requiring large brains to retain knowledge. Birds are divided into precocial and altricial types based on juvenile duration. About 80% of bird species are altricial. Precocial birds hatch with open eyes and down feathers. Precocial birds mature quickly, leaving nests within days to hunt insects, like quails. Altricial birds hatch blind and helpless, needing extended care. Altricial birds only leave nests after growing larger and growing full feathers. Great spotted woodpeckers are altricial birds. Since presocial birds need early independence, they're born with larger brains than altricial birds. But during growth, presocial brains expand minimally, while altricial brains grow substantially. When birds are born, their brains are small. During their juvenile learning period, their brains gradually enlarge, eventually surpassing presocial birds with higher cognitive abilities. The second misconception humans have about bird brains is that they lack a cerebral cortex and can't perform higher-order thinking. The cerebral cortex is the outermost folded layer of the brain, the last structure to evolve in brain development. 2. Responsible for thinking and analysis. The cortex is where complex behaviors originate in mammals. But bird brains are smoother, lacking the folded cerebral cortex. So, for a long time, scientists believed birds could only perform instinctive, reflexive behaviors. And in the 1990s, detailed comparisons of brain structures revealed birds have complex neural systems similar to the cortex. Unlike mammals' 6-layered cortex stacked like decks, birds' equivalent structure is clustered like garlic cloves. Despite structural differences, neural connections in birds function similarly to mammals. Neurotransmitters are identical too. Think of mammal brains as iPhones, bird brains as Androids, different architectures but comparable higher-order thinking capabilities. Scientists also found about 80% of bird neurons are in cortex-like areas versus 20% in the primitive cerebellum, the reverse of most mammals, 80% cerebellum distribution. Thus, despite smaller size, birds' high neuron density for higher-order thinking makes their analytical abilities unsurprising. Take New Caledonian crows. They understand physical phenomena and make corresponding inferences. Researchers at New Zealand's University of Auckland observed them dropping stones into water-filled tubes to raise water levels for drinking. This perfectly aligns with the crow drinking water fable from elementary textbooks. Further studies showed when offered objects of different weights, they consistently choose sinking items over floating ones. In other words, New Caledonian crows know that an object's weight affects water displacement and choose suitable objects to achieve their goal. Another research team proved these crows can understand cause and effect relationships, especially consequences from unseen forces. This is called causal reasoning ability, a highly advanced cognitive skill. Researchers designed an experiment with a hidden area in the aviary covered by canvas. There was a hole in the canvas with a stick protruding through it. They placed a box near the hole. Crows could access food using simple tools, but had to turn their backs to the stick while foraging. 8 crows observed 2 different scenarios. First scenario: a person entered behind the canvas in the crow's view, then the stick moved in out repeatedly. If crows foraged nearby, they could easily get poked by the stick from behind. Finally, the person left from behind the canvas in full view. Second scenario: no one entered behind the canvas, but the stick still moved in or out. No one departed afterward. After each demonstration, crows entered to forage. Results showed when crows saw the first scenario, human departed, they foraged calmly and securely. After the second scenario, crows appeared nervous, glancing at the stick while foraging or abandoning food entirely. This demonstrates that without seeing human manipulation, crows understood stick movement was human-related and would cease after departure. Clear causal reasoning. All right, let's summarize part 1. Birds descended from theropod dinosaurs. During evolution, their bodies shrank dramatically while brains remained relatively large. Birds possess cortex-like neural systems with high neuron density. Together, these enable high cognition for environmental challenges. Now for part 2, specific avian talents. What advantages do these talents provide in nature? Beyond understanding physics and causality, we'll focus on 2 key talents. The first talent is tool usage. Many birds use tools, like African gray parrots scooping water with pipes or bottle caps, and wood ducks fixing plastic springs to branches to scratch themselves. Some birds even wield weapons. In Oregon, USA, 2 researchers approaching raven fledglings were pelted with stones dug from soil. Among all birds, New Caledonian crows are the ultimate tool experts. These crows inhabit New Caledonia Island, sparsely populated with vast rainforests rich in biodiversity. They feast on beetle larvae hidden in tree hollows or bark. Using twigs or barbed leaves, they craft hooks to extract these larvae. More astonishingly, they manufacture multiple hook types from barbed leaves. They create 3 hook varieties: wide, narrow, and stepped structures. The stepped hook, imagine a leaf-made mini saw with serrated edges, features a sturdy wide top for gripping, tapering to a flexible slender end. Crows insert hooks into tree hollows, prodding larvae until they bite the serrated edge. Then they gently retract the hook, bringing larvae to ground. Sound simple? Not so. Scientists attempting this found it requires exceptional motor control they struggle to replicate. Why are these crows such adept tool makers? The author identifies 2 reasons. Starting with environment, New Caledonia lacks bird-eating snakes, predatory mammals, and competitors like monkeys or woodpeckers that extract larvae. Thus, crows needn't stay vigilant. They have ample time to develop tools and fledglings extended learning periods. Fledglings observe adults to learn hook-making, but require nearly 18 months to master it. This learning phase is remarkably prolonged. During this time, fledglings depend entirely on adult care. The island's safety allows them to hone skills undisturbed, becoming tool-making experts. The second reason New Caledonian crows excel at tool-making lies in their unique physiology. Compared to other birds, their eyes are positioned more forward, granting wider vision to spot distant insects and precisely catch them with their beaks. Their beaks also differ significantly from other birds. Many birds have beaks with elaborate hooks or curves, great for tearing prey, but poor for tool crafting. New Caledonian crows have straight, conical beaks that firmly grip tools for delicate operations unachievable by others. Perhaps it's likely that superior vision combined with a tool-gripping beak and stable environment enabled their tool-making evolution. However,
The author notes they might be inherently gifted toolmakers.
Their vision and beaks could have co-evolved to support this innate ability. Which explanation holds remains scientifically unresolved. Birds' second talent is social intelligence. Most live communally. Group living offers advantages. Many eyes detect predators and issue warnings, plus easier food finding with companions. But it also creates complex social challenges. Each bird must choose social partners, decide cooperation or rivalry, remember appearances, track past behaviors, and predict future actions. Some scientists speculate these social pressures drove avian cognition forward. Let's explore birds' social prowess through three lenses: social memory, learning ability, and mating relationships. First, social memory. Some birds live in fluid groups, shifting with seasons and years. They face a challenge. Can they remember former companions after long separations? Biologist Thomas Bugniar believes they can. He observed a group of 16 young ravens in the Alps. As they matured, these ravens joined different flocks. Thomas found they still recognized juvenile peers even after 3 years apart. Avian social memory extends beyond peers to humans. Crows can identify familiar human faces in crowds, especially those who pose threats. American biologist Bernd Heinrich captured many crows on a university campus for research and released them after the study ended. And in the following years, these crows often recognized him and would scream at him. Heinrich tried wearing wigs or sunglasses. Sometimes he even changed his walking posture, but the crows still recognized him. Having covered social memory, let's now discuss birds' learning abilities. Birds are very good at observing and imitating peers to learn skills. The New Caledonian crow, mentioned earlier, is an example. Adult birds don't specifically teach chicks to make hooks, but through constant observation and imitation, chicks eventually master the skill. This imitation learning involves various aspects such as female zebra finches learning to choose mates from other females. Suppose a female bird that hasn't mated sees another female mating with a male wearing a white leg band. If presented with two males, one with a white band and one with an orange band, she'll also choose the male with the white band. Mhm. And however, imitation learning is one thing, learning through explicit teaching is another. For a long time, people thought only humans explicitly teach others, but increasing evidence shows that animals also engage in teaching. A classic example is the pied babbler. These birds live in southern Africa and always move in groups, whether foraging, playing, or resting. Researchers found that when chicks reach a certain stage, adults begin intentional teaching. Adults bring food back to the nest while making a special call, helping chicks associate the food with the call. Once chicks get used to the food and call appearing together, adults hold food while making the call and move outside the nest where chicks can't reach, forcing them to leave the nest. After chicks leave the nest, adults use this special call to guide them to foraging sites. This sounds simple, but it's actually a bit complex. Adults don't point to a specific foraging spot because pied babblers forage in different places daily. Adults teach chicks what conditions a foraging site should meet, like abundant food and being far from predators like hawks. Moreover, when predators approach, adult birds call to guide chicks away from unsafe areas. Pied babblers aren't unique in this. Scientists have observed similar teaching behaviors in white-headed ducks and western corellas. Now let's examine avian social skills in mating relationships. About 80% of birds practice social monogamy, staying with one partner throughout breeding seasons or longer. This resembles human monogamy. In contrast, only 3% of mammals are monogamous, mainly because raising chicks requires intensive dual parenting, incubating eggs, feeding, and protecting offspring, especially altricial species. Without dual care, few chicks survive to fledging. This demands adult birds to understand partners' temperaments, needs, and behavioral shifts, requiring high observational and predictive abilities. The book describes Eurasian jays, where males court females by offering preferred foods. Cambridge researchers conducted a clever experiment showcasing their social intelligence. Researchers offered two foods, mealworms and waxworms, letting females gorge on one while males watched. After feeding, males chose which worm to gift females. Like humans, birds prefer variety. Even favorites become unappealing when overeaten. If you just ate piles of chips, chips lose appeal. To gift appropriately, males must track females' changing preferences. Researchers found males consistently gifted the uneaten worm type. Further experiments showed gifting choices ignored males' own preferences. Thus, males transcend personal tastes to think empathetically. Other species strengthen bonds through vocalizations.
Male budgerigars imitate mates' contact calls to show commitment.
Contact calls are special vocalizations females use to communicate with partners. After pairing, male budgies master identical contact calls within days, and females judge courtship sincerity by imitation accuracy. It sounds like birds have harmonious mating relationships, but that's far from the truth. Many monogamous birds actually cheat. Through DNA analysis, scientists found about 90% of birds have affairs. Why do they cheat? For male birds, cheating helps produce more offspring. For females, it's about securing better genes than their current partner offers. This diversifies their offspring's genetics, boosting survival rates. Regardless, both sexes cheat while still co-parenting their young. They must charm partners to maintain harmony while sneaking around for affairs without getting caught. Mentally exhausting. Biologist Renee West from University of New Mexico believes this complex social dynamic drives birds' cognitive evolution, predicting thoughts and deceiving partners. All right, we've covered birds' talents and tool use and social skills. These enable adaptation to changing environments and thriving populations. One standout example is the seemingly ordinary sparrow. Let's examine how birds adapt to environments using sparrows as our case study. Sparrows are Earth's most widespread wild birds, with about 540 million individuals. They inhabit every continent except Antarctica. They thrive from Death Valley at 85 meters below sea level to the Rocky Mountains over 3,000 meters high, especially abundant in cities. This incredible adaptability directly links to their cognitive abilities. As mentioned, biologist Louis Lefebvre documented innovative behaviors. Sparrows show 44 types, ranking among the cognitively advanced. Some sparrows use cigarette butts in nests. The toxic chemicals act as insect repellent. Others learn to open automatic cafeteria doors. They boldly sample new foods, plants, insects, mice, even human garbage. They employ clever foraging tactics, too, hunting insects around observation deck floodlights and plucking bugs from spider webs. Overall, sparrows possess a strong exploratory spirit and are willing to try new things, allowing them to adapt well to new environments. Additionally, being social animals enhances their adaptability. As mentioned earlier, group living helps avoid predators and find food more easily. Now, researchers at Hungary's Pannonia University found group living sparrows have stronger problem-solving abilities. They used a transparent glass box with seeds, its lid having holes covered by handle-equipped caps. Sparrows could either pull handles to remove caps or peck hard to push caps inside. Researchers found groups of 6 sparrows outperformed pairs in all aspects. The larger groups opened 4 times as many caps and solved problems 11 times faster. Researchers believe larger groups enable more diverse exploration. Once one sparrow solves a problem, others learn immediately, naturally speeding solutions, a phenomenon occurring across species. American psychologist Steven Pinker suggests humans evolved high intelligence precisely because our ancestors lived communally, having opportunities to learn from each other and share discoveries. However, the author reminds us birds have limits. Even clever ones may not adapt to human-driven environmental changes. In fact, sparrow numbers are declining globally. Over the past half-century, Britain lost an average of 50 sparrows per hour. Sparrows are now endangered in the UK. Reasons for decline are debated. Some believe many sparrows get hit by cars or eaten by increasing domestic cats. Others link it to reduced green spaces and lower insect density. Compared to sparrows, other birds face worse situations. Needing specific temperatures, their habitats shrink due to human-caused global warming. Take the white-rumped munia. 50 years ago, it lived within 300 meters below mountain peaks. With global warming, it's forced upward, now surviving only within 120 meters below peaks. There's also a bird called the golden pheasant. Every spring, they migrate from South America to the Arctic. When flying over Delaware Bay, they arrive during horseshoe crab spawning season. Horseshoe crabs are arthropods, resembling beetles, whose fat-rich eggs are red knot's primary food source. However, since the 1980s, red knot populations have declined 75% due to horseshoe crab overharvesting. Recently, while overharvesting improved, climate warming created new problems. Warmer waters cause earlier crab spawning. By the time red knots arrive, the eggs have already hatched. The author believes declining bird numbers warn us of planetary environmental issues requiring urgent attention and protection. All right, let's summarize part 2. Avian talents manifest diversely, not just tool use, but complex tool fabrication. Birds possess strong social intelligence, remembering individuals, learning through observation and imitation. Some birds even teach deliberately. They maintain complex mating bonds, adapting through these talents, yet human activities increasingly threaten their survival. There are no With this, we've nearly covered the genius of birds. The author notes profound human-bird parallels: large brains relative to body size, social living, and shared cognitive abilities like causal reasoning and perspective taking. New research reveals bird brain regions governing social behavior resemble humans, controlled by similar genes and chemicals. Thus, birds offer invaluable reference points. Studying them helps us understand ourselves. After this episode, have you gained new insights about birds? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. That concludes our exploration of the genius of birds. Find study notes below the audio. See you next time.